All right, guys, what's going on? It's Jack, and welcome back to another video. And now we are going to be covering the Phantoms in this series that I got going on right now for the factions Overhaul. Now, these are simple requests or things that I would want to see changed, or at least partially changed in the game. So just a little fun series, obviously. If these things were to happen, I think it would be better. And just as kind of a little bit of a feedback from the last episode where I covered Echelon, when I was talking about the activated abilities in terms of how I think they should be earned, I wasn't referring to them as streaks to where you have to get a certain amount of points without dying and or taking objectives without dying in order to earn them. I simply said that they should be similar to ultras. In other words, like support streaks, for instance, which is what they're compared to in Call of Duty, because that's what they are really. With ultras, you have to have a certain amount of total points accumulated regardless of how many times you died in order to activate the ultra, or to have the option to activate the ultra. And I think it should be the same way, but with less points when it comes to the activated abilities, because I think people just having these activated abilities is basically a participation trophy. And quite frankly, I don't believe in participation trophies, and I think everything should be earned, right? I mean, do you guys think that everybody who plays the game should have gold guns on their weapons if they haven't played it? So should a person that's only played, let's say, 10 games total, should they have gold guns, even though you put in God knows how many hours in order to get your gun up to level 100 to earn that gold gun? Of course not. I mean, if you're max prestige, should everybody deserve to be max prestige even though they haven't worked for it? Of course not. You got to earn everything, right? So, and it's really not much to ask for when you're talking about like 400 or 500 points that you can earn regardless of how many times you die when it comes, through taking objectives and or getting kills. Anybody, regardless of skill level, is very, very capable of getting 5 kills, 10 kills, or more per game. Now, there are a few that don't get like over 10 killers, or not too many over 10 kills, but at the same time, again, you're doing better, you get them more often because you're accumulating more points. And not only that, don't forget, you can still take objectives and get those points. So there you go. So again, I'm simply saying, gotta earn them, right? And I think it's very reasonable, because I think there's some people that misunderstood that. So just reiterating again. So, and that's one of the things that I would love to see changed in the game. Even if they don't change anything else, I would love that. So without further ado, let's get into the Phantoms, because that's what this is all about. So we're going to start with the passive trait, and then we're going to go into the activated abilities, and then we're going to go into the ultras. So the passive trait is the one that's probably the most controversial when it comes to this particular faction, and that is hardened, to where you start out from the get-go with 20 extra health than anybody else, right? Everybody else's base health is 100. Yours is 20. And the biggest problem with this is twofold. Number one, you're obviously starting out on an even playing field. You already have, from the get-go, an advantage over everybody else when it comes to base health. And remember, as I mentioned before, the foundation of this game, just like any other shooter out there, is in the shooting itself, right? When you're getting into those gunfights and stuff like that, and having a disadvantage from the get-go is a problem. There's a reason why they took out stopping power from Call of Duty. Now, I know this is not Call of Duty, so relax. This is XDefiant. This is a completely different game, and that's why I love it. And that's why I'm playing it and supporting it, et cetera, right? But again, when it comes to certain things like that, there's a reason why the community just doesn't take to them very well, because it's crutch, it's a must-have, and I am willing to bet that the biggest reason why a lot of people use Phantoms is because of that ability right there. The hardened ability that gives you 20 extra health, so therefore an advantage from the get-go. And the other problem that I see with that is if you get additional players, let alone an entire 6-man party, or not even a party, just a 6-man team that they're all using Phantoms, guess what? You're going to have a harder time. I don't care if it just takes an extra bullet to kill. That extra bullet does make a difference in a shooter like this, despite the fact that the time to kill is a little bit longer than some other games out there, like, again, Call of Duty. Again, we're comparing to Call of Duty because that's what everybody's saying, right? Everybody's saying, compare XDefiant to COD or vice versa. It's like, dude, this is a different game. Let it be its own game. But what I'm trying to tell you is that this obviously adds a little bit too much of a misbalance, and I think it needs to be replaced. Now, how you replace it, I'm still trying to figure out ideas, but a couple of things that are coming into my mind, and again, you guys can let me know down in the comment section what you think, or if you have any of your own ideas, of course. I think that the regular passive trait for this, some examples that I've come up with on the top of my head, should include extra penetration damage against other special abilities. So let's say again, including its own, right? Including its own abilities. So for instance, let's say there's a Phantom on the other team and they activate a mag barrier. I think you should have, let's say, roughly about twice the amount of stopping power for your gun against not against players, but against their abilities. So if somebody puts up a mag barrier that's on the other team, it should take you about half of the amount of bullets in order to shatter that thing compared to other people, right? So what I'm saying is, like, it would be like you having another partner there, so you could be completely on your own, right? But what you're doing is you're able to have twice the amount of effective damage on that special, right? And this could work against a spider bot. It could work against some of the other abilities or whatnot, regardless of what it is. Or let's say let's say the Libertad, for instance, is activating its ultra, right? Guess what? What if you were to deal a little bit, maybe not something game breaking, but just a little bit of extra effective damage against people that are on the Libertad that are activating their ultra, or activating, let's say, if not the ultra, then their activated ability, to where they, place that health regenerator down on the ground and then they start recovering or whatnot. What if you were to actually do twice the amount of damage than the average player? I think this is something that is very valuable, because if you think about it, the Phantoms are actually masters of defense. So what if they actually are also masters of countering other people's defense, because they are masters of defense themselves, if you think about it? So that's just my thought. Bullet penetration damage through thin walls, I think would be really good. Like extra bullet penetration damage through thick walls. And again, against its own ability, so to speak, I think it would be a really good way to counter other Phantoms or whatnot. So sometimes you got to fight fire with fire. It is what it is. I know the factions are built to counter each other through different factions, and I get that, but at the same time, who knows? And I do know that there are other factions that are coming, so stuff like this that I'm mentioning may be on hold for other factions that are coming, which may very well be the case. But just something I just thought I'd throw out there and just kind of see what you guys think, and as well as maybe what you guys think should be added. Next up, of course, we have the activated ability, which is the Blitz shield. No problem with this whatsoever. I think it's really cool that you can even shoot somebody in the face if you're accurate enough, as opposed to having to constantly just try to work around them and try to hit them in the back. However, I do, I don't use this thing, but honestly, I think a lot more people would use it if they had the ability to move a little bit more by default while staying covered. So maybe an increase of speed in some way. I'm not necessarily saying it should be like a throttle dash, so to speak, kind of like they had in Infinite Warfare, so to speak, with one of the abilities or whatnot, or one of the specialists or whatever it is. So, but I'm just saying, like, maybe just a little bit faster of increase of speed. The mag barrier is fine where it is. I use it all the time whenever I play as a Phantom. I think it's absolutely terrific. And of course, we're getting into the Ultra now. I think the Ultra is fine, except for one little thing, and it's similar to the Blitz shield. I think that the player that is activating the Ultra should actually be able to move a little bit faster. I'm not necessarily suggesting full sprint, and if it was to be full sprint, I wouldn't want it to be faster than an LMG without attachments. So I would say, something like that I think would be very viable, not just for objective play, but sometimes to get to that objective as well. Now, obviously, their shield would always be fired at, but I would say if you're moving a little bit faster, I think that would make it a little bit more viable. I think a lot more people would use it, because I think some players, whenever they choose a Phantom, they're like, oh, great, I've got Harden, the passive trait. But at the same time, the trade-off to that is that they're not too fond of using the Ultra. Now, obviously, for games such as game modes such as Hot Shot, for instance, this is not very viable. However, with other game modes in the game that are in there, all the other game modes, this is a very good Ultra, because you could take that B flag. You can have also other people on your team that are in there that can shoot outside of that bubble. So yeah, and of course they can sprint to you, but at the same time, I think it would be slightly more effective if you can sprint to them. I think one of the big reasons why Phantoms, obviously a big reason why they are used is because of that passive trait that we talked about, but I also think another reason why they're not used as often is because of the Ultra just being a little underwhelming. I love the fact that you have the point blank electro scatter gun, right? So anybody gets within your shield, you shoot at them, they're dead in one shot, right? I love that. I think that's great. I don't think that should change at all. But with that being said, if the person that, when you activate that Ultra, can move just a little bit faster, I think that would be a lot more fun, and to a certain degree, it would be even more viable in every game mode, obviously. So So yeah, that is pretty much it when it comes to the Phantoms, guys. I love this faction. I think it could be even better if you were to just change a few things. Obviously, when you have this many abilities and with this many factions and with more factions coming, there's inevitably going to be balance issues and stuff like that, no doubt about it. And you try to kind of even out everything as much as possible. But in my humble opinion, starting out with the 20 extra health, I think is a little overkill because of the fact that in pubs, for instance, you can have, like I said, even if it's not a 6-man team that you're going up against full of Phantoms, it's, you can have like 4 and it's still like, it's still a problem. So I think everybody should just start on an even playing field. That's all I'm saying. And I think they can do something else other than just giving the player 20 extra health, so to speak. But anyway, with that being said, I want to know down in the comment section below, what do you guys think? What abilities would you add? How would you change these? Like if you were to change any of these abilities or whatnot to make them better or to nerf them, buff them, whatever it is, let me know down in the comment section. I'm really interested to see what you guys think. And with that being said, guys, I'd like to thank everybody for taking the time to watch and or listen. And I'll catch you guys on the next one.